Hello, everyone. Oh, sorry, and welcome. Today we're having an Ayurvedic talk with Dr. Parthasarathy. So they have a wonderful clinic in South India called SDJ Ayurveda. In fact, I've spent 3 weeks there doing panchakarma at their site. It's beautiful. It's in the forest. We've got wild animals, and there's 4 doctors there, including his wife. And it's an amazing place. It's authentic Ayurveda, and the treatments are amazing, the love, the care, the attention. And so the doctor here has a lot of knowledge about Ayurveda, which he's going to pass on now, but there is so much to it. It's very in-depth. So we'll welcome him here, and thank you, Doctor, for coming here to the festival from India. Thank you.
Namaste all. Namaste. Hope I am audible. Shall we begin with a simple prayer? Yes. Gajananam bhutaganadisevitam kapittajambuphalasarabhakshitam उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम् रागादिरोगान् सततानुषक्तान् अशेषकायः प्रसृतानशेषान् औत्सुक्यमोहारतिदाञ्जघान यो पूर्ववैद्याय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै गुरुगणेशाभ्यां नमः. So it's fantastic again to be here in this festival. I hope you would have read my name and you would also understood the topic that we are going to discuss today. It's actually a controversial topic, correct? And in this next few minutes, I'm going to tell, or we are going to discuss and debate a lot of things that you maybe until now presume that it's the correct way of eating or the correct way of dieting, the correct lifestyles. Whatever you have assumed to be correct might become wrong, maybe in this discussion. So before going into the topic proper, I hope all of us together can have a consensus that actually we are in the age of advancements, age of technology, correct? It's the age of technology where everything is available at the touch of the finger. And Google is not fashionable anymore. We have ChatGPT, we have Gemini and so many other things. Looking at this technology from a different perspective, I would rather see this not as an age of technology, rather it is an age of information. Do you agree with me? We have a lot of information available in front of us. If you want to know about something, anything about dieting, is this good or not? What is the calorific value of this? What is the protein content of this? Anything about food or anything about your lifestyle or whatever it is, you have so much of information available, and fortunately or unfortunately you need not even search for it. It is coming, and like you have an information overload where WhatsApp messages, Facebook, Instagram reels and so many other things talk about the same thing. You need not even go in search of it, or at least if you made a small search, what is a protein rich food, you all know that you will have all your Instagram and Facebook feeds and advertisements based on protein-rich food. Am I correct or not? So you need not even search. You are loaded with information even if you are not uh, interested to get so much of information. So there is an information overload. And this information overload is also a big problem because, example, if you wish to start any dieting practice, the search or the information that comes to you will end up with at least 5 options which are conducive for you. Finally, you might have to choose one out of the 5 which is more fancy, or sometimes which is more trending, or which is more, you might randomly choose something. Am I correct or not? You will have to choose. You will have 3-4 options and you might have to choose one, and that choice may be correct, may be wrong. And when you are choosing something with a dilemma that it may be correct or it may be wrong, even if it was a correct option, it might not work well, because the role of mind, when there is a doubt there, then even if you are doing something right, that might not materialize the way you wish to do. I hope you are resonating with what I am talking now, because you are always, because now people are more in search of things to do to improve their health. Correct or not? So this is a fact. So in this scenario, lot of information that is being passed on to people, or what is available in the so-called trending media or so-called trending concept of dietetics, etc., is in principle fundamentally wrong in many aspects. So how do I have the authority to claim that it is wrong? So to have an authority, for example, anyone can give a statement and tell that this statement is wrong, correct? We have a freedom of speech. I can tell anything is correct, anything is wrong. But it is not about the freedom of speech telling that, okay, this is correct and this is wrong. What we claim to be wrong or what we claim to be correct is not my understanding, it is not my theory, it is not my discovery. It is from the age-old Shastra, Ayurveda, which is documented at least 5,000 years ago, which is documented, inverted commas. Documented meaning the ever-existing knowledge came to existence in the form of a book or in the form of a palm leaf or whatever way it was 5,000, 6,000 years ago. Even before that, there were lineages and things like that. You would have heard about Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, the textbooks. Even if you have not heard about it, absolutely no problem. But maybe you should have heard about it. Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, all these are the textbooks. So our claim that, okay, this is correct and this is not correct is from a very big legacy. Documented evidences and proofs are already there. But the icing on the cake is not just the documented evidence, because if I am going to chant a shloka and tell that Tatradya marutam gnandi trayastikta dayakapam kashayatikta maduraha pittamanyetu kurvate. This is a shloka in the text. Just as you see Vedas, as you see Bhagavad Gita, the same format is our text. Our text will be in a poetic format, not a prose, poem, like a poem. It has a tune, it has a meter. You give me any topic, maybe properties of buttermilk. What is the property of buttermilk? Takram lagu kashayamlam dhipanam kapavadajit. This is the property of buttermilk. So, if I am going to tell you a shloka and tell any interpretation to it, no one is going to understand. So, I can manipulate. I can tell a shloka, and this, as per this shloka, Ayurveda claims this is correct, though. Correct or not? I can claim. You are not going to understand. I am not here to do that. But to justify this, that what is there in the shloka and what is its authentic interpretation, to justify this, we have something called a tradition that is backing up. Okay? I think there are people from India, there are people who are from the UK, there are people from different parts of the world, I believe. Irrespective of the country which you are from, your grandparents, your ancestors had a tradition. That tradition differs from place to place, region to region, season to season. You all agree to that? Anyone from a different country, like anyone from France, Russia, Germany, Switzerland? You will have Portugal. You will have your own tradition. Your grandparents or your ancestors had their own way of doing things. That way of doing things changes from region to region. There was no standard practice. You all agree to that? It changed from season to season. But nowadays, everything got standardized. Your grandparents did not have a standard breakfast, a cereal, a granola with milk, oats with milk, with nuts, with fruit, with seeds. These were all not in practice before. You agree to that? But now 365 days we have a same breakfast. Forget about your ancestors. Did your grandmother have this? No. If you give this oats with nuts, with fruits, with coconut oil and with ghee and coconut milk, she's going to throw it on your face. Give me my simple, maybe whatever your simple food is. If I'm going to give this to my grandmother, she'll tell, give me my idli and dosa. I'm comfortable with that. And they were comfortable with that and they were healthy also with that. Correct or not? So everyone had, every national, every country had their own tradition. And their tradition is based upon the nature. The nature gives a particular way, or nature gives some whispers for them to practice certain type of food habits, or may be food habits, or may be lifestyle habits. Everything was associated with nature. We are completely disconnected from nature, and hence we are in trouble. That's the biggest problem. So how do we get back this connection? How do we get this connection back with the nature? Actually, if you are able to get back your connection with the nature, you don't require Ayurveda. In fact, the nature will give you a lot of teachings and learnings, which is a much easier way. But because that we have lost a lot of connection in this, we are still struggling. So now Ayurveda can give a helping hand to make you again get connected with the nature. So the conclusion in this introduction is that Ayurveda is not about globalization. I'm not going to bring some theories and concepts from India. I'm not going to impose it on you. If I'm going to tell you that you have to go to those Patel brothers and stores like this, buy all the vegetables and spices from India, make your khichdi, dal, sambar, and eat, this is Ayurveda, it is rubbish. If you are using your locally grown ingredients, preparing your food, then it's going to be an Ayurvedic way of eating, or Ayurvedic way of cooking, or whatever it is. Okay? So there are a lot of myths in this concept of what we are eating, what we are believing to be correct, what we believe to be a most healthy practice, etc. Actually speaking, it's a very simple topic for me, this topic, because I have hundreds of myths that I can bust. One. Number two, it's a very difficult topic for me, because what to choose? It's a very difficult question, a very big question. So we have a lot of myths to bust in this next 3 days. To start with, I thought we'll touch a very sensitive topic which might put you off. You might believe that there is no point in continuing this session, or we might have a debate. If the debate is for a positive sake, yes, we are welcome to have a debate. There is no doubt. You can give your contradictory theories. We can come into consensus with that. We can have a debate. I'm open for the debate as well. You know what is the most trending health fad? I would not call it as a fad. Health practice, food practice now. Sorry? Vegan? Yes. Protein? Fasting. Good health. Gut health. Okay. Gut health. Sorry? Allergies. Allergies. Yeah. Yeah, like lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance, and things like that. Uh-huh. Eat the rainbow. You need all the 7 colors in your food. The, the number of diet practices that we have. You need 7 colors in your food. You need protein, carbohydrate, fat in this quantity. You need, one theory will tell that you need fermented food. Your food should all be fermented. And one theory will tell that your food should not be fermented. There should be 0 fermented food. A lot of controversies. I'm sure that you all know that before 2018, we were all obsessive about a practice, health practice, that we need to take small and a frequent meal. You remember that? And if you were a diabetic, then needless to say, you would have been forced upon to eat a small and a frequent meal, 6 to 7 times a day. How many of you remember this practice? Most of you would have been trying this also, correct? The same modern dietitians, nutritionists, are they promoting this now? What is the current trend? Intermittent fasting. The same dietitian who told 7 years ago to eat 7 times a day, 8 times a day is telling, try to eat 2 times a day, if possible once a day. Maybe they can even prescribe you eat every other day. If this trend goes, eat every other day, correct? The same dietitian. 2015, before 2015, your food should not be fermented at all. There should be nothing that is fermented in your food. But now, try to have everything fermented. Pickle your vegetables, drink kombucha, buttermilk, anything possible, ferment anything and everything. If your whole plate is fermented, perfect. Correct? 2010, before 2010, eating fat, especially ghee, coconut oil. If you touch ghee and coconut oil, you are more prone for a heart disease. Not about eating. Don't touch coconut oil. Now, coconut oil at empty stomach, ghee 1 teaspoon at empty stomach, people even mix it with coffee. Correct? Gallons and gallons of coconut oil is sold in the market. I hope you all agree with me. This is the trend now. So whatever that is being confirmed as a good practice, within 5 years, 10 years, 10 years is a maximum life cycle of this dieting practice. In 10 years, the whole dieting practice will go a complete 360-degree change. The same people will tell you that don't do this. Correct or not? We have seen hundreds of such dieting practice. You know, this paleo diet, I think no one is talking about this paleo diet anymore. Correct? No one is talking about paleo diet. Do you remember a period where paleo diet, everyone, there was one more diet which was very famous and now no one is talking. Keto. Sorry? Keto. Keto is also now gone. Keto is not in trend anymore. Okay, I'm not updated yet. You are more trendy. So, this trend, every trend is lasting for a very short amount of time. Let us forget about these trends. What does Ayurveda say, which is documented thousands and thousands of years before, and it was justified, it was given a green stamp that yes, it is correct by our ancestors. Our ancestral practice, I would bluntly tell you that your ancestors, great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers, whatever they were doing was perfectly aligned with the principles of Ayurveda. There was a transmission loss. When they tell something to you, you understand half, you put your own theories, your own trends into it, make a khichdi out of it, and their concept is lost, and you transfer this to your son and your granddaughters or whatever it is, it gets completely corrupt. Correct? There's a lot of transmission loss. Even if your grandmothers, grandfathers were knowledgeable enough to transfer their knowledge, it got corrupted in this process of transferring from generation to generation. But whatever they were doing was perfectly right. Did your grandmother, I think you must be having your grandmothers somewhere in 80s and 90s. You should be having, some of you should be having mothers, grandmothers in their 80s and 90s, or at least you must remember your grandmothers and ancestors. Did any one of them think about the calorific value of the food, or did they even know about protein, carbohydrate, fat in the food? They do not know what is protein, carbohydrate, fat. But unfortunately, we are obsessed with this protein, carbohydrate, fat, correct or not? This obsession has taken us to a very bad situation. So how do we come out of this obsession? What is the fad behind this protein, carbohydrate, this way of seeing food into different components? We are not seeing food as food anymore. We are seeing food as components. I need protein in my plate, I need carbohydrate in my plate. Sorry, this is food. We have totally lost our ideology that this is food. We break it down into just protein, carbohydrate, fats. Okay? To the extent that I remember in one of my visits to Brazil, they were asking me, I ordered something, food is horrible there, at least for a vegetarian from India, food is horrible in Brazil. I will somehow find a restaurant where they serve something vegetarian, something close to Indian culture, etc., etc. We go there. I'm talking 10 years, 15 years ago. I've ordered something, then they're asking me, what do you want for protein? I was taken aback. I did not understand the question 15 years ago. What do you want for protein? I was asking, what do you have for protein? They told, you have options, tofu, paneer, and some other, chicken. They considered chicken as vegetarian in those days. So we were given a choice to choose the protein in the food. That was the scenario 10 years ago. Then now you can understand how it would have evolved. And very soon, this protein culture will also fade away. There is no doubt about this protein culture will also fade away. You need 0.8 grams of protein per kilo, or 2 grams of protein per kilo, etc. There are so many misconceptions. How many of you are calculating protein in your food? Honestly, none of you? Yeah. But how many of you are conscious that you need protein in your food? Pretty much everyone, right? So all of you are subscribed to Facebook, Instagram. I'm going to tell you something opposite to this. I'm not just going to tell you, again, as I told you, this is an age of information. I'm not here to give you an information that this information, you all have an information from Instagram and WhatsApp. I'm going to give you information from Ayurveda. Makes no sense. This is not for information. We are going to understand, or we are going to get a wisdom from the Shastra. So this is not about information. That point is clear. So if I'm going to give you an information, you already have 99 information. This 100th information is going to make no difference. Because end of the day, you already have 99, you're confused what to choose. I'm going to add one more point to your confusion, which makes no sense. If I'm going to give you a wisdom, maybe your decision can be better. I'll tell you, take this wisdom, at least be a better off person to choose from the 99. I'm not here to give you a 100th information. Let this wisdom zero down from 99 to 3 at least. If we can do this, it's a success. Are you game for this? And please, I'm again mentioning that it's not to hurt any value systems or any values that you have. If you are not agreeing to the topic, I'm definitely open for a healthy discussion, not as a repercussion actually for healthy discussion. I'm open for a discussion. Why proteins are promoted so much? Any idea? Sorry? Because protein sells. Protein sells. You cannot sell carrots, beetroots. You cannot make big money out of it. You know how many industries are behind this protein push? Do you know? Just think about how many industries are behind this protein industry, protein push. Dairy industry, animal industry, egg is an industry separately, supplement industry, correct? And also pharmaceutical industry. Because you eat all this, you have disease, a pharmaceutical industry is also backing up. This, maybe I would have left few industries. Food industry is also playing a role here. Each of these 5-6 industries alone can dictate governments. When all these 5 industries are together, you can understand how capable these industries are. You agree with me? There is a big push, a marketing that happens even without our knowledge. We are forced to accept certain things. You know, this 5 principles, you know, this 5 tents. At least you must be knowing this 5 tents, like Prithvi, Jala, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. This is the Akasha tent, the space tent. Similarly, you have the fire tent, this 5 tattvas, the 5 principles. Every substance or anything that is perceivable is made up of 5 elements. You agree to this? May it be this chair, or may it be this carpet, or this table, or this physical body, this watch, whatever it is made up of 5 elements. There cannot be a substance which is made up of 4. Impossible. It is made up of 5 elements, no doubt about it. It is the basic philosophical understanding. It is a philosophy that everything in the universe that is perceivable is made up of 5 elements. Correct? If it is made up of 5 elements, everything should be similar, but they are not similar. Each one is different. Each one looks different. Everything is unique. Every single substance is unique. That uniqueness is brought about by the permutations and combinations and proportions of these 5 elements. So one element might be, this element is more on the earth element. This substance is more dominated by earth element, and hence it is hard. There are substances which are dominated by the air element, and hence it is soft. It can fly. You could perceive what I'm telling? So every substance is made up of 5 elements. This physical body is made up of 5 elements. The food that we consume is also made up of 5 elements. This is the viewpoint of the composition of food substances from an elemental perspective, 5 elements perspective. So every food substance that we eat is also 5 elements. This physical body is also 5 elements. These 5 elements go and nourish the other 5 elements in the body. Did you get the point? A different way of looking at this 5 elements, or different way of looking at the composition of the food, is what we have in the current trend as protein-rich food, carbohydrate-rich food, and fat-rich food, mineral-rich food. So we are breaking down this food into a different concept: protein, carbohydrate, fat, etc. This protein, carbohydrate, fat composition of food, nowadays we tell that rice is just carbohydrates, correct? All of you would agree with me that you are now conscious about reducing the rice because rice is carbohydrates, correct or not? This rice is also 5 elements, correct? If rice is made up of 5 elements, it should have everything in it. If the dal is made up of 5 elements, it should have everything in it. if this protein or whatever tofu has made up of 5 elements, it has everything in it. The proportion changes, the proportion varies. So whatever that this tofu and paneer has, the rice also has, but the proportion varies. You get my point? So even rice that we consume is not just, it cannot be just carbohydrates. It has everything. Maybe carbohydrate is predominant. So because carbohydrate is predominant, people believe that they should not consume carbohydrates because it is harmful for us. It might predispose you to diabetes. So diabetes is the fear factor. Agree? 20 years ago, what was the normal value for diabetes fasting value? Any medicos here? Medical doctors? Medical professionals? 20 years ago, normal value of diabetes fasting was 130. Then it became 120. Then it became 110. Now it is 100. Now they tell the safe value is double digit. Don't go to triple digit. Safe value is double digit. When it was 130, when the normal value was 130, medicines were not selling great. When the normal value became 120, the medicine sales doubled. You get my point? So there is a big, I don't want to use this word, but there is a big chain that is happening around this. So all that is to give you a fear that you can get yourself predisposed to diabetes when you eat rice. Any of you from a rice eating community, anyone from rice eating community, at least 20-30 people are here. This rice eating community, does anyone of you disagree my statement that your grandfather, grandmother had a big heap of rice, and everything that was going along with the rice was a side dish? May it be sambar or a vegetable or anything that goes along with the rice is a side dish. The main dish is a rice. This rice eating community, do you disagree with this point? Anyone? No disagreement. Which means this was a traditional practice. Just few minutes ago I told you that our traditional practices were absolutely in tune, coherent with the principles of Ayurveda, which means this traditional practice is also coherent with Ayurveda. So what does Ayurveda say? Shaka avaranna bhuyishtam tyajet. Shaka, vegetables. Avaranna, pulses. Bhuyishtam, in big quantity. Tyajet, avoid. Contradictory, right? Our grandparents were eating a big bowl of rice and vegetables, dal, sabjis, whatever it is, went along with it. Now we have a big bowl of vegetables and dal alone and a small cup of rice. Probably our ancestors would have had ghee in that cup. A small cup. That is the rice that we consume. Agree or not? The whole scenario has changed. And these people who were having this type of food, actually they were much healthier. Probably if you even calculate 50, 60 years ago, if you calculate the mortality rate, etc., it was much better because there were no advancement in the medical field. If they had cancer, then naturally they'll have to die. There were no diagnostic techniques and medical field advancement was less. Even then mortality rate was less. Now we live longer, but that is a curse. Now to live longer is a curse because you have a list of diseases. You have food, that is your medicines and the things that you eat for health is much bigger than the medicine, the food itself. It's a curse to live longer with so much of diseases is the current scenario. I hope you all agree with me. So as of now, the point I have put across is that our ancestors ate a big serving of rice and vegetables, etc., was small. And do you mean that, you can ask me a question, do you mean that is that how we have to eat? Not really. We can have modifications. Ayurveda has no fixed ideologies. We can have modifications, but that should be based on some concepts, some theories, some fundamental principles. It depends upon the region. There are some region, India, south of India, rice, impossible for us to survive without rice. In north of India, they cannot eat even 2 straight meals with rice, they cannot eat. They need something else, chapati. So it varies according to the region, it varies. But in principle, grain was a predominant item, even if you are from UK or Australia or Japan, wherever you are from, grain used to be the primary thing. Slowly, these grains were taken out, and this vegetables, because vegetable has fibers. Fruits, you need fruits every day. Fruits have fibers. In 1904, Kellogg's came into this breakfast business, and that is when fruits were promoted. Even Kellogg's, presumably, Kellogg's gave you a coupon inside the 1904. You can check again. Kellogg's gave a coupon for fruits, where you can use this coupon to buy free fruits or at a discounted price. So it was the business was linked or hooked with United Fruits or something, I don't remember it. There was a business tie-up for promotion of fruits. That's how fruit came into the breakfast culture. That is how the concept of breakfast was totally taken away, gradually taken away from us. It started in 1904. So gradually these kinds of things happened, which made us believe that, okay, this should be the way in which we have to eat. Now, is there anyone here who confidently eats rice because I think this is my food? Rice should be my primary meal. Is there anyone here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With full confidence, without fear of diabetes. Yeah. So the fear of diabetes is primarily from the way in which the rice is cooked, the way in which rice is consumed, the time at which the rice is consumed, what type of rice is consumed in what season. Those things, yes, we are not going to discuss today. The follow-up sessions, we are going to pull out each topic and go into the depth of this topic to get a wisdom. Again, this is not for information, to get this wisdom. So I've given you a kind of a flyer that, yes, this is one of the topics that we are going to discuss. We're going to bust the myth that rice is not the culprit. The way in which we cook the rice and consume the rice, who eats? Nowadays, everyone is behind this brown rice, correct? Because we believe that brown rice has so much of nutritional value. We are all behind this nutritional value. Nutrition-rich food. Given a choice, will you choose a plain bread or a multigrain bread? Sorry? Multigrain. Everyone? Multigrain? Yes. This is our mindset. This is how we are bulldozed with ideologies. Why are you choosing multigrain? You get all nutrients in one pack. It's a package. Correct? You get all nutrients together. That is how we are looking. That is our mindset about food. We want everything together. The same mindset happens in our meal plate also. Same theory, same ideology. You want everything in your meal plate. Agree or not? If you are preferring multigrain food, multigrain bread, if you apply the concept in your meal plate, you like to have all possible nutrients. There comes the rainbows, the kombuchas and whatnot, fermented food. There's so many things. Quinoa, millets, multigrain millets, everything comes into picture. But in principle, there should be a simplicity in food, there should not be a complexity. One basic takeaway is, as I already told, we cannot mix multiple grains. You can mix a grain, you can mix a pulse. It enhances the digestibility, it gives you more benefit. When you mix a grain and a pulse, it enhances the digestibility. Even modern researchers have proven that this is beneficial. There is a new branch of study called trophology. There is a new branch called trophology where they research about these combinations, food combinations. This trophology has confirmed that a grain and a pulse together is always beneficial. Taking it individually versus taking it together, on analysis, they found that taking it together is highly beneficial. You think about your ancestors, they would have always taken it together. In our country, rice sambar, rice dal, chapati dal, idli with rice and dal. Anything else? Bread with your baked beans. Again, grain and a thing. But so many things have come into picture, that's the biggest problem. So one takeaway, when I tell you make it simple, grain and a dal is fine. But two grains, two dals together, two grains together in the same dish, not a good idea. Is that clear? This is an information. Again, this information will get justified with the wisdom that we are going to learn together or discuss together. It takes time. I'll be connecting there are many dots to be connected. We are slowly connecting dots. Only when we connect multiple dots, we'll see a picture. You are still seeing various dots, unconnected dots. I cannot guarantee that all the dots will be connected in today's session. Maybe we'll start this process and this process may continue. Okay? But even if you are available only for today, I'll try my best that you at least go home with some take-home points to implement and see benefit in your daily life. Any questions until now? Any? Yes.
You said mixing grains is not a good idea. Why is that?
I'll come. Maybe I'll touch this point and go to the next thing. See, one thing is that this human body is not a simple concept. It's a complex concept. To understand this human body is not that simple. It's highly complex. So is food. Food is also not simple. Food is a complex ideology. The concept of food is too complex. It's not easy to understand. We are trying our best to understand food, but it is in spite of that, it is complex. And the process of cooking makes it much more complex. From our common sense or common perspectives, what is a balanced meal? What is a balanced meal according to you? How? Sorry? To be more precise, less carbohydrates, more proteins. Yeah? Yes. Less carbohydrates, more proteins. Then? Vegetables. Fat, with fat, without fat. So you are in the trend. If you are not in the trend, you would have told without fat, because zero fat was a previous trend. Now with fat is the current trend. So we have different ideologies about this balanced meal. Do you know what Ayurveda talks about balance? What is a balanced meal from an Ayurvedic point of view? Which your ancestors, irrespective of your nationality, your ancestors had followed this. What is a balanced meal? What was the benchmark? Yes, that was their tool to make it balanced. The tool for them to make their food balanced is they got connected with nature. What was available, they were consuming, yes. But there was a theory behind this balancing. What was that? And that theory behind this balancing was incorporated in their cooking practice. Sorry? That was a tool. Yeah, maybe I'll give you the answer. It is Shadrasam Madhura Prayam. Shadrasam meaning 6 tastes. Madhuraprayam is predominantly sweet. Shadrasam Madhuraprayam. A food is called as a balanced meal when it has all 6 tastes with a predominance of sweet taste. This predominance of sweet taste doesn't come from your dessert. It's not your desserts or it's not your sweets that you consume along with your food. The predominance of sweet taste is contributed by primarily by 2 things: old rice and old wheat. Old rice and old wheat. Those of you from this rice eating community, if you are agreeing with me, you can raise your hands after I complete this point. Your grandparents, you, maybe even you, will be going to the market and asking for old rice. They'll tell old rice is costlier. There'll be a print on it mentioning that old rice. It is at least 5, 6 times or 10 times costlier than the new rice. But still you'll ask for an old rice. Your ancestors, your parents would have taught you that you should consume only old rice. Do you agree with me? Yes? That is ingrained. This old rice and old wheat are sweet predominant in taste, but does not increase the unwanted kapha. Like good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, this aspect called kapha, there is a positive aspect of kapha and also the negative aspect of kapha. Positive aspect of kapha, the factor kapha, if you don't understand what is kapha, fine. There is a factor called kapha that nourishes this body, supports this body. There is a negative aspect of kapha which can contribute for diabetes or cholesterol or metabolic disorder or a list of things it can contribute. So this old rice, old wheat, the sweetness, old rice and old wheat by properties are sweet in taste. If cooked properly, consumed properly, they contribute to this healthy kapha, and that should be the predominant taste of the meal. And all the other 5 tastes, actually there are 6 tastes, there are not only 4 tastes. Madhura amla lavana tiktoshana kashayakaha. Madhura is sweet, amla is sour, lavana is salty, tikta is bitter, ushana is pungent, kashaya is astringent. 6 tastes. You all know 6 tastes? Okay. Sweet, salt, sour, bitter, pungent, that is spice, astringent. So food should have all 6 tastes. There should be a predominance of sweetness. So how do we contribute to that predominance of sweetness? A big serving of rice. And all the other vegetables, dals, and whatever that we use along with that, and we add fenugreek in the cooking, we add turmeric in the cooking, mustard in the cooking, oil, tadka, curry leaves, so many things goes into the cooking. These combinations contribute to the 6 tastes. It's not necessary that you perceive all the 6 tastes, but all the 6 tastes invariably get incorporated in our meal, and this is the way we satisfy the balance in our meal with Shadrasam and Madhuraprayam. There is 6 tastes with a predominance of sweet. Seeing this from a different perspective. From your point of view, you will tell that, okay, if I am going to eat rice, you cannot remove this carbohydrate thought process. You cannot remove this carbohydrate from your head. Carbohydrate is diabetes, rice is carbohydrates, etc. But even the modern nutrition, there is a big difference. This, as I told you, this complex body, food is also complex. When this complex body is nourished by this complex food, there is a beautiful synergy. This complexity and this complex body creates a beautiful synergy to regenerate and to support this body. So there is already complexity in this food. With this explanation, you understand that already the food is complex. When you bring in more complexity by adding 2 grains, 2 dals, 2 colors, 3 factors into it, it becomes much more complex. Even if you take a khichdi, a simple diet, simple food, do you think it is just carbohydrate, protein, fat? It is too complex to understand, as complex as the human body. But that complexity meets this complexity, and there is a beautiful synergy, everything is taken care of. Even what we considered as a simple food is complex. But what we do is make it much more complicated and complex than we imagine. And that's how this breakfast bowl, as I told you, became this complex. How? Oats, fruits, nuts, seeds, yogurt, and many other dry fruits, everything comes into picture. And you are consuming this at a time where the digestive fire is very low. Breaking your fast like a king. No. Maybe if you are breaking your fast in a 2-meal practice. Ayurveda promotes only 2-meal practice. Okay? I don't disagree to that. This 2-meal practice can be understood as the intermittent fasting. Ayurveda is very close to intermittent fasting. But I will not tell you that Ayurveda is just intermittent fasting, follow intermittent fasting. No, it might be harmful, it might fire you back. If you are an ideal candidate to follow intermittent fasting, then perfect, you will get all health benefits. But not everyone are ideal to follow intermittent fasting. So who is ideal to follow intermittent fasting? We are going to discuss. Get it straight. Get this wisdom straight. What is this intermittent fasting? What are the aspects approving this intermittent fasting? What is the caution that we could take in this practice of intermittent fasting? Because this intermittent fasting is the trend. 16:8. 16 hours of fasting between dinner and breakfast, and 8 hours of fasting between lunch or breakfast and evening dinner. If you are in this practice, if your breakfast is after maybe 12 hours or 16 hours, if you are taking a meal like a king, it is fine. But at 7:30 in the morning, if you are taking this kind of a breakfast, you are like destroying your internal system. Lunch, around 11ish, 12ish is the time where your digestive fire gets stronger. What is the time when our how is this clock working? Which is now considered as circadian rhythm. If you try to break down, remove the nuts and bolts of this circadian rhythm and understand, it is nothing but the explanation of Ayurveda. What is this intermittent fasting? This, actually speaking, I have to thank Yoshinori, who has came up with a concept of autophagia, won a Nobel Prize for bringing this concept of autophagia, because before his Nobel Prize, we used to beg people, don't eat 7 times a day. Ayurveda doesn't approve this. You'll have to eat only 2 times a day. No one was bothered to even listen. But after his Nobel Prize, everyone are like, intermittent fasting is their goal of life now. That's the way in which it has been taken. At least his contribution is that he has made our job simple. But unfortunately, he has not given his, I don't like him much because he has not given his due credits to Ayurveda, which has been shouting about this theory in a much holistic way. He has taken one filament of intermittent fasting and won a Nobel Prize. Number 2, you all must be doing this Ekadashi Vrata. What is this Ekadashi Vrata? Ekadashi, anyone knows what is Ekadashi? Fasting on the 11th day. 11th day of it's associated with the moon cycle. Fasting every 11th, on the 11th day, which falls every 14 days. Okay? This Ekadashi Vrata, we all follow this Ekadashi Vrata. On this Ekadashi day, we fast, we eat less, we give a gap, we pray for Lord Vishnu, and we don't eat breakfast, and all this is there. And what does Yoshinori conclude in his intermittent fasting? He tells, once in every 14 days, you should practice a strict intermittent fasting, starving, which will help in the regeneration of the cells to prevent cancer. Okay? So this Ekadashi Vrata, which our ancestors were doing since ages, and some filament of Ayurveda is tinkered, and it is called as autophagia. He won a Nobel Prize, but end result, our job is made simple. Okay? So when we talk about this complexity of the food and this complexity of this body, this work happens easily. Now let me talk about, I think I partly answered this question about why we should not mix this two grains. Partly answered, but I will touch this topic again. The current modern nutritionist principle tells, the current modern concept of nutrition is a reductionist theory. You all know that what a reductionist theory is? This reductionist theory cannot work in this complex body. That's the biggest problem. The reductionist nutrition theory will not work in this complex body, and that is the problem that we are facing in this current age. Even this reductionist theory has concluded that these proteins are not good enough for our daily requirement of energy, because these proteins are not lean fuels. Proteins leave a residue. Proteins are not clean fuels. Proteins leave a residue, whereas carbohydrates are clean fuels. They do not leave a residue. So the energy requirements should be met by carbohydrates, not by proteins. Energy requirements for our day-to-day functioning. This not only proteins are unclean fuels, meaning it can leave a residue after the process of digestion, they need a lot of energy for the digestive process too. The proteins need energy for its own digestion also. So the digestion of proteins is difficult. The proteins, after its digestion, it leaves a residue. From an Ayurveda point of view, we call something as ama. If at all you are associated with Ayurveda, there is something called ama, which they call as digestive toxins. They give many names to it. I don't want to give a name or a tag to it, but we can, in a simple extent, we can understand it as digestive toxins. Some residues and remnants that stays back even after the digestive process. When you connect these two ideologies of the modern conclusion that proteins are not clean fuels, they leave a residue, I would rather call it as the ama or the digestive toxins accumulated with proteins. And hence, the modern theory is not also promoting proteins for our daily usage of energy. Have you ever read about this? I cannot claim I cannot claim which is things that are not facts and factuals, because as you know, you have every information available. You can go and check about this clean fuels, proteins, etc. So here two things converge together. Like the 7-meal practice became a 2-meal practice with some discoveries. Now something else is coming together. The modern science is also coming. The next trend is reduce your protein, increase your carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are necessary for our daily energy requirements. Proteins are required just for the supporting of the muscles and things. It need not be taken in a big quantity. Can be the next push. It can be. But this cannot become a big push because there are a lot of industries backing this up. This protein industry, as I told you, animal industry, poultry, so many things are pharmaceutical industry, supplement industry is the biggest industry to back this protein things. There can be some other industries that can overpower. There can be some other trend, but at least some healthy individuals will come to a consensus that, okay, I don't need this much of proteins. At least those of you who are so conscious about proteins, don't you feel this bloating and excessive flatulence after eating all these pulses and dals? Do you feel this? Maybe you might be embarrassed to raise your hands, but this is a common thing that gives us a confirmation or a consensus that, yes, I'm struggling. You might not struggle this much when you eat a rice dominant or a grain dominant meal, but I'm not giving you a straight information that from tomorrow, from this evening, go to the tent where they serve rice is not my suggestion. There should be some logic and reasoning. How do we get this wisdom to decide whether I should eat this grain or that grain, or is this grain suitable for me or not? You should have some baseline. My wish is if I can give you a baseline and you can develop upon it, perfect. So the intention is to create a baseline without any confusions, without any bias, without any influence from different industries, which is backed up by the Shastra, which is documented and prevalent and helping like thousands and thousands of years it is there. Many such things we are going to, for example, one more thing, I'm just going out of the topic. There will be so many of you here telling that I am a health believer, I am a health enthusiast, and hence I don't take sugars. Instead, I add honey in my tea. I add honey in my drinks, hot drinks, because I'm a health enthusiast. This is the worst thing that you can do, because the Shastra clearly tells that honey should not be mixed with anything that is warm. Honey should not be heated up. Honey cake, I saw somewhere, honey cake, honey pie or something. Honey should not be consumed in a very hot climatic condition, a very hot country in a very hot climatic condition. Honey should not be consumed by a person who has a hot constitution, a pitta dominant constitution, who feels hot, who sweats a lot, who's very fair in complexion, who's not hyperactive, what do you call, hyper reactive, always, I don't get a good word to it. Sorry? Agitated kind of a person. Yes. So these are the people who do not consume honey, which means honey and heat is a big contradiction. So what health enthusiasts believe is that they take honey in hot water and drink. They are avoiding sugars. So that's one big push for them. Number two, they believe that honey is going to give them so many benefits. This is called as a reductionist theory. There is no concept of holism there. We have broken down things that honey is for this. But the way in which honey can be processed, who consumes it, which season is it consumed, which country is this practice prevalent, all this matters a lot. Okay? I can give you one example for you to realize this and understand this. All of you, most of you would have traveled to India. In south of India, for us, cheese is something that we cannot handle. We cannot handle cheese at all. In the whole of the country, we have only one variety of cheese to our claim. You know what is that? Paneer. How do you call it as cottage cheese here? Cottage cheese? Paneer, everyone knows what is a paneer, I believe. The whole of the country, we have so much of cows and dairy, in fact, we don't kill them, we worship them. In spite of that, we have only one variety of cheese to our claim, that too in one small area of the country. But think about a country like UK or Europe or Switzerland. You don't have the same amount of dairy that we have there in India, but you have so many varieties of cheese. So your culture is with cheese. Our culture is not with cheese. Instead, buttermilk, ghee, yogurt, this is our culture. Ghee is the predominant milk product there for us. Cheese is the product for you. You understand the difference? So what is required for you? Now can we, with this concept, can I tell that goat cheese is healthy? This cheese made in this way, cheddar, whatever cheese, can you give a name to this cheese? This is universally healthy. Is it possible? If I give a good tag to this cheese is the best cheese. It sells, of course, like moringa. Moringa, you know moringa? Is moringa in trend now? No, not anymore. Moringa? It is in trend, okay. Like you give a superfood, this is a superfood. There cannot be something called a superfood. There is nothing called a superfood. There is actually nothing called a superfood. Superfood is something that's making good money. That's the only thing. That's the only criteria for a superfood. Anything that makes good money, or if you wish to make good money with something, you give a tag called superfood. Moringa is not a superfood. It cannot give all these health benefits. Now, you know what is the current superfood? Avocado, no, it's a previous trend. The current superfood is beetroot. You heard about this? Beetroot increases circulation, beetroot prevents cancer, it helps sleep, reduces cholesterol, reduces diabetes, blood pressure, and there are a list of things. Beetroot is enough for you, is the current trend. So, this multiple theories like intermittent fasting. So, what does intermittent fasting and Ayurveda, how does this intermittent fasting merge with Ayurveda, is what we need to explore. And these basic tenets, like what should be avoided in our eating habits. One simple thing, one simple tip, which I cannot expand now, but Ayurveda strongly avoids a person to finish the meal with a sweet. Ayurveda strongly recommends to start the meal with a sweet. How many of you, if you are from India, if you have an Indian origin, your payasam, kheer or a sweet will be the first thing that will be kept on your meal plate. When you eat that, you get easily satiated. You might be able to eat only one bowl of food after you start your meal with a sweet. But when the opposite, when you start with a bowl of meal, you can comfortably finish 2 bowls of meals and then take 2 servings of your sweet. Agree or not? Agree? So the order in which we consume food also matters. It can make a huge difference. So we cannot claim what is good and what is bad. There is no food in this world which can be called a good food. There is no food in the world that can be called as a bad food. All that we need to know is a fundamental thin line of understanding or a wisdom to make us decide what is good and what is bad. And this decision itself is so bothering actually. To know, we are obsessed to understand what is good, what is good, what is good. You go search here, where is this food court? You walk 20 times around, which is healthy, which is good. Same, you make circles, but still you are not convinced. I'm sharing my experience, but I don't know how you are. You're not convinced. This is not okay, that is not okay, this is not okay. We are always obsessed to understand what is good and what is bad because we miss something called a thin wisdom on which these theories can be built upon. Okay? Is this making sense? Yes? Yes, please, go ahead.
For people like us, you've spoken about what our ancestors or grandparents used to do, and then linking to nature. Now, my grandparents were in India.
Yes, exactly.
They had a certain
True.
way of eating. If I were to link to nature, I'm linking to it in Britain. So I'm linking to it in Britain. So how do I square that?
Yes, exactly. This is the most common question that we get to hear or we get to answer in many places. Basically, you are influenced by 2 factors. What you call as genetics, we don't call genetics in Ayurveda, we call it as prakriti. There is a dosha prakriti. So your genetic makeup requires certain type of food. You are able to digest or able to handle certain type of food. That is one part of you. Another part of you, you're not living in the same environment as you are supposed to. You are in a totally different environment. There is a contradiction. And hence, according to Dharma Shastra, or if you know what Dharma Shastra is, as per, like Ayurveda, there is a Shastra which talks about Dharma. What is one supposed to do, one not supposed to do. As per Dharma Shastra, one is not supposed to travel outside his country, cross seas. If you have grandparents who follow law, tradition, keep up tradition at home, they'll not allow you to travel overseas. But now it's out of question. So this is the logic in those days. They were not allowed to travel overseas. So you're following that. Now, having come here, the best thing that you can do is try to incorporate all the local ingredients, but maintain a taste that you are habituated to. Use local ingredients, prepare an Indian, more Indian style food with local ingredients would be the best way out in this scenario. I hope you got the point.
Is that the same for taste? Because I'm not from India, I have no. Thank you. I have nobody, no ancestors from anywhere other than, well, that I know of, the UK or surrounding. So I prefer spicy foods and things like that. So is that bad because it's not where I'm from? Does that make sense?
You prefer, you mean you prefer?
So if I'm eating more of the things maybe from India or somewhere else, is that bad because it's not local?
I'm not giving an yes or no answer, but let me give you a foundation for this, a foundation theory behind this question. How many minutes do I have more? 17 minutes. Half an hour more. Thank you. I'll give you some examples for you to understand this. I'm from a country, India, south of India, where our breakfast is piping hot, spicy. And it is not an early morning breakfast. It is a late breakfast. Sometimes people from Chennai, you might know, it's a common practice that our ancestors don't even have breakfast. It will be like 10 o'clock, proper lunch. But piping hot, spicy, with all varieties. Going to this hotel and seeing this breakfast in this hotel is a disappointment because hardly there is anything hot and definitely not spicy. If at all, if it is hot, it is meat, so there is nothing for us to consume. It is just, we are left with fruits. The more the colder the country is, you would see certain commonalities. Early breakfast, one, it's not cooked, rather it is arranged from your fridge. Sorry, I'm not criticizing, I'm telling you the facts. You arrange your breakfast. You can even take it from your fridge, refrigerator and have your breakfast. Spicy is out of question. It is just sweet and salt predominant. Maybe sour taste can come in the name of, in the way of jams and marmalades. Some sour taste can come into it. You might hardly have any other taste. When the country becomes more and more colder, this phenomenon gets more and more stronger. Do you agree to this? When the country becomes more and more hotter, you see the breakfast or even the food in principle becomes more and more spicier, more and more hot in nature. Have anyone noticed it, or can you make a assumption, or can you make sense with this? I can give you a few more examples. The more colder the country is, the more stronger the cheese eating habits are. The more number of varieties of cheese is more stronger in more cold countries. Chocolates, cheese, etc. When it is hot, cheese is out of question. More colder the country is, more of alcohol. Even I was in some country, I think it was in Argentina, mother and son were sitting together having a cup of wine. I was just imagining, what if this could happen in my country with my mother? I would be kicked out of our house. I cannot even imagine. It cannot be even an imaginary situation thinking of having a cup of wine with my mother. Beyond imagination. So when the country becomes colder and colder, a cup of wine or alcohol becomes a norm. The more hotter the country is, it can even be a haram, against law, like Arab countries. You see, there are patterns. Did you understand the pattern here? When the country is colder, there is a concept called Ritucharya, meaning seasonal regime. According to the seasonal regime, winter is a season where a person's digestive fire will be very strong. Summer is a season where a person's digestive fire will be very low, and hence a country where winter concept is predominant, the food habits will be very heavy. A country where non-spicy. In a very cold country, we get people from 44 different countries coming for treatments. Sometimes we'll be adding only ginger, nothing else. Ginger in some porridge, etc. People tell spicy. It's unimaginable. Even ginger can be spicy for someone. It's a surprising thing for us. The amount of chilies and peppers that we load in our food is unimaginable. So how is this possible? Because when you're coming from a really cold weather, you don't require so many spices because the digestive fire is strong enough to manage to digest your food without the spices, and hence what you require in a cold country is less spice. What we require in a hot, heat predominant country is more spice, and hence you go to any heat predominant country, you see the amount of spice gets more stronger and stronger. Giving you an example, the amount of spicy food that I can consume, you cannot even smell it. You might get spicy with that smell. And if I travel to a place called Andhra Pradesh, which is above us, I cannot tolerate that spice. That spice is intolerable for me. Then you can imagine what would be the degree of spice there. Spicy, pungent food. It is all dictated by the climatic conditions. So, for us, yes, please.
Thank you. So you have touched upon the cold and hot countries. With this, I have a connected question that within our body also, if the Pitta dosha is high or Vata or Kapha, then how do we understand, okay, for this food might be suitable or not suitable?
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Actually speaking, this belief that my Prakriti is Pitta, my Prakriti is Vata, I am Kapha, I am Pitta, I am Vata is actually a wrong notion. You need not adjust your food too much based upon what you are. Because we spend a lot of time analyzing. There are softwares to tell you that you are 72.3 Pitta and 41.4 Vata. Rubbish, not required. Actually speaking, not required. Unless you are an Ayurveda Vaidya, you need not know about these percentages of what and what you have. The only thing you will have to focus is how am I aligning myself with my nature. Actually speaking, this balance of Vata, Pitta, Kapha is not about this balance of between Vata, Pitta, Kapha within you is not the balance. You cannot do that balance. You are what you are. What we call as a balance is between a Prakriti and a Vikriti. There is a factor called Prakriti, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. There is a factor called Vikriti, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. We need to keep these two things in equilibrium. I would not call it as a balance. It is an equilibrium. To attain this equilibrium, we need to be going with the flow of nature. Going with the flow of nature is winter. You are okay to eat even heavy to eat food substances like what you do around Christmas, New Year. So much of food. Next season, spring, the food has to drastically reduce. If you are not reducing your food according to the changes that happens around you, that is a time where this Lent fasting and other things. Back in India, we have this Navaratri, Vasanta Navaratri. Suddenly from all this Diwali, Pongal, eating festivals, suddenly we go into this fasting mode. All fasting festivals comes into picture. If you are not aligning with the climatic changes, the nature will tell you, okay, this is what is happening around Nature will tell you what to eat, what not to eat. I'll give you one quick example. Summer, not this summer, I'm talking about real summer. In real summer, Ayurveda gives you certain recommendations that this should be your food. The recommendations are, food should be, first criteria, food should be laghu, light to digest, easy to digest. Second recommendation, the food should be drava, liquid in nature. Third, food should be madhura, sweet in taste. Fourth, food should be snigdha, should have nourishing value. It should be nourishing. Food should have a nourishing capability. Okay? Snigdha, madhura, laghu, drava. When you think about a food which is easy to digest, sweet in taste, contributing lot of nourishment, actually it's a tricky combination. You get my point? It's a really tricky combination. For the same food should be liquidy in nature, sweet in taste, nourishing, but light to digest. It's an impossible combination. This is the requirement of the season. So what does nature do? Nature will reduce other supplies. The nature will be ready with fruits which satisfy all these criteria. Think about watermelon, muskmelon, and I think those of you from UK, summer is a season where we get fruits. Your fruits are supplied from summers of Chile, summers of India, and summers of different countries. You know that? All the fruit that you consume are from different countries in their summers. There are certain winter fruits. That is fine. But in principle, fruits are predominantly available in summers. The nature's requirement is beautifully satisfied. The 4 criteria that I mentioned is beautifully satisfied by nature. That is why we call it as mother nature. Because the mother knows that the child is hungry even before the child cries. There is an instinctive connection. So is the connection between human and nature. Nature knows that summer is going to, this deterioration in the body, this changes, the harsh changes in the body happens because of summer. Why is that we need to eat a light to digest food? Why is that we need to take a nourishing food? Is that because the body is undergoing a harsh change because of the external climate. That's unavoidable. But along with this harsh change, the nature gives you what you need to consume. So if you try to understand what food is available in what season, you will get a beautiful connection that what is required and what is supplied. This requirement and supply is unbelievable. People who eat, I'll give you one more example. People eat meat. I gave you some, patterns, right? Cold country, hot country. The more colder the country is, the more stronger the non-vegetarian practices are. Do you agree with me? In really cold countries, you cannot find vegetarian food. I was in Chile, even the breads had this non-vegetarian stuff, something, even the bread had non-vegetarian content in a very cold country. The more colder the country goes, you find nothing outside the ground. Everything, whatever that grows is under the ground, or you would be directed to eat meat. When the country is cold, when the climatic condition is cold, you are directed to eat meat. Because the digestive fire is very strong, you need to support this digestive fire. The nature gives you a direction, okay, eat underground like potatoes. Or you can sustain on meat. Or you can sustain on the preserved cheese. etc. Summers, fruits, nature tells you, okay, eat this fruit. Next season is rainy season. It rains cats and dogs outside. You cannot go and procure your food. So what is in rainy season? You preserve whatever that grows in summers. You make a jam out of it. You dry it. You pickle it. You do whatever possible. Make a chips, not the UK chips. I'm talking about the Indian chips. Make chips out of it. Preserve it. The preserved food is available for the next season. So you are directed by the nature what to eat and what not to eat. Have I answered your question completely? Is there a part of it which you would like to know more? I have 5 more minutes if there is any question, or 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Oh, wonderful. Yes, please. Seeds. So her question is about seeds.
Yes.
Seeds also.
Seeds. I was just asking about seeds.
Again, it follows the same trend. Your mother would not have taken any seed in her breakfast. Maybe because of your company, she might have something, or people in those age, they were not into the seed culture at all. Seeds are something actually new that came up, that cropped up, which is in same lines with this push of proteins, etc. The seeds are also a new trend. I think the seed trend has gone down, I believe. In my understanding, I see this seed trend is much lower nowadays. There is no requirement to survive upon seeds. Seeds, nuts, etc. not necessary to include in daily food.
Sorry, going back to what you said about rice a while ago, what makes rice old or new?
Samvatsarad
Yeah,
urdhvam.
but how do you,
Samvatsarad urdhvam is a rice that is more than 1 year old is categorized or called as an old rice. Ideally, before removing the husk, they should be kept. To give you one more extra bit of wisdom there, let us take 2 seasons, winter, summer. Few minutes ago, I was telling that what should be the nature of your food in winters? Should be heavy to digest or easy to digest? In winters, heavy to digest. I tell you, the old rice is easy to digest. New rice is heavy to digest. So logically, can you understand that it is okay to consume new rice in winters? Do you understand? Do you get the logic? The Shastra explains the same. Navam shalim ashniyat. Consume new rice in winters. Because new rice is harvested in winters. That new rice is consumed in winters with a festival. We have a festival called Pongal. We harvest this new rice. We cook it in front of the sun god. That is the time where the northern solstice starts. Northern solstice starts on a day called Makar Sankranti. We prepare this rice on an open ground. We offer this pongal to sun god. We consume this freshly harvested rice in that particular season. So there is a provision for us to consume new rice also when the season is supportive. But in a season when the digestive fire is not supportive, like in winter, summers, one has to consume old rice, which is at least 1 year older. So this is not just a seasonal understanding. Even in winters, some people might have low digestive ability. If you have a low digestive ability, then it is always best to choose a old rice in comparison to new rice. You get? And this rice, making it old, is with the husk and the husk removed after a year. If you know any traditional rice cultivation places, at least in India, there will be a barrel where they will store rice. How do they take out rice? Do you remember? In a barrel. It will be a big barrel where they store rice. Where will be the area to remove the rice? In the bottom, There will be a cork in the bottom of the barrel. So they remove the cork, the rice will fill up, they'll close the cork. In age-old tradition. I think even now this barrel practice is there. So new harvest rice goes on the top. When the old rice finishes, by the time the top rice comes to the bottom, it is already a year. See how knowledgeable our ancestors were. What a simple thing. It is actually easier to take the rice from the top, correct? Actually, it is simpler. But they found a way to play only, this is applicable only for rice. Rest things they'll take from the top. All the barrels will have a lid on the top, except for rice. Rice lid will be in the bottom. The time when the top rice comes to bottom, it is old. These kind of, you'll be amazed by the rich tradition that our ancestors had, which we have discounted. So easily we have discounted this tradition. This tradition, if it is still alive, my presence is not required here to connect you with this tradition, make you understand, no, that was Ayurveda. Okay? Yes, please. Please, any one of you.
So, Michael, so I'm fascinated by this idea and have been for 40 years, this idea about how societies came up with these traditions about food. How many generations did it take them to get things right without any science as we know it today? But somehow from their worked out what.
I'm not hearing you.
Is this not on?
Yeah, it's now, yes.
Okay. No. So I'm fascinated by the idea that these traditional cultures somehow came to a consensus on the right foods to eat at all the right times. How did they have this insight without modern science to know this? Is it just generations of experience?
So, where is the origin of this knowledge is your question, if I would understood right.
Yeah.
So, if we go back to the history of Ayurveda, Ayurveda is not actually just a medical system. Ayurveda is a way of life. You don't find an origin, there cannot, anadi anantam. There is no origin, there cannot be an end for this. This is ever existent. If you try to understand the history of Ayurveda, Brahma smritvayusho vedam prajapati majigrahat soshvinau tau sahasraksham sotriputradikan munin. The meaning is, I'm not cooking up, I'll tell you the facts. Brahma smritva, Brahma, the creator, the concept of creation is Brahma. This Brahma, who is the concept of creation, he did not find this or did not share this knowledge of Ayurveda. Instead, Brahma smritva yusho, Brahma remembered this knowledge. Prajapati majigrahat, transferred this knowledge to Daksha Prajapatis. Soshvinau, this Daksha Prajapatis transferred this knowledge to Ashwini Kumaras. If you are familiar with this Indian history and things like that, you will understand Ashwini Kumaras. From Ashwini Kumaras, Soshvinau tau sahasraksham, from Ashwini Kumara to Indra. So Atriputradikan Munin. From Indra, the knowledge was transferred to Atri and other rishis. The rishis, the knowledge got transferred. These rishis together conducted conclaves where different students were invited, of which there were many students. Notable students were God, slipping out of my mind. 6 students were his notable students who documented different texts from the same teachings, of which Atreya, Agniveshascha Bhelascha Jatukarna Parasharaha Harita Ksharapani, the 6 disciples. Agnivesha, Bhela, Jatukarna, Harita, Ksharapani, Agniveshascha Bhelascha Jatukarna Parashara Harita Ksharapani, 6 disciples. These 6 disciples received the knowledge, and they received the same knowledge, but they were asked to document whatever they have received as their learnings. They documented it. Interestingly, each of it had a speciality. One was focusing on pediatry, one was focusing on surgery, one was focusing on general medicine, etc. And each of their textbooks got documented. They had multiple disciples, and that is how this lineage of knowledge came into existence. You will be surprised to understand, even without cadaveric and exploration, the amount of search. I think it was in British Museum, or no, it was in Germany. You see a big entrance where they have called Sushruta as the father of surgery. The first ever possible plastic nasal reconstruction surgery documented by Sushruta 5,000 years ago. First ever cataract surgery is documented 5,000, 6,000 years ago in Sushruta Samhita. How is this ever possible? Even in this age with so much of technology, cataract surgery now is not a big deal. But to think about a surgery to happen in our eyes, no anesthesia and other things, they were exemplary, knowledgeable rishis in those days. From the rishis we get it. So it is called as Arsha. Arsha is Rishehe Praptam Arsham. When you get the knowledge from the rishis, it is called as Arsha. I think the name of the charity is Arsha Kula Foundation. Arsha. When you get it from a rishi, it is called as Arsha Vidya. This is also Arsha Vidya. We get it from the rishis. But these rishis were not the founders. They don't claim to be, they don't ask for the patent of all this knowledge, but we are just grazing the superficial soil, the superficial grass. I am just giving you tidbits, feelers, but when we go deep into the Shastra, you will be amazed by the depth and the clarity. You will be amazed. Just if we take the properties of food substances, how do they understand these many properties? What substance acts on this organ, what substance acts on that organ? To this extent, we have documentation of things. When people claim we have to do research on this, we have to do research on this, there is absolutely nonsense. You need not have to do any research. First, you will have to search what is available in the Shastra, which we are not doing. There is no research required in the Shastra. One has to study the Shastra. That's the only thing.
I wondered if you could talk a bit more about this protein myth,
Yes.
and in regards to women's health with the menstruation and the feeling of the need for protein and iron.
Yeah. Protein and iron.
Yeah, and that the nuts or seeds for non-vegetarian is really beneficial, or it feels really beneficial to have more protein in my life. Yeah. Thank you.
So maybe I have just 2 more minutes, so this is my concluding note. In this concluding 5 minutes, okay. I'll conclude the session by answering this question. Our obsession has come to a point that we are making a one-to-one linear connection between what I require and what I supply, which is the problem. We believe that what we contribute to the body is the only factor that decides what my body gets, but that is not true. There are so many people who are meat eaters and they are deficient in B12. I recently, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I did a blood investigation for my mother who's 70. I was thinking, seeing all the patients with B12 deficiency, vegetarian since birth, what will be her B12 levels? I was a little worried and concerned. But her B12 was 440. Pure vegetarian who has not touched meat in her life. We see a lot of patients who are daily meat eaters having 180 B12. B12 levels 180, taking supplements, injections and things, still their levels are not coming high. So this example gives the clarity that what you give to the system is not going to translate directly. It can be even supplements. There is no guarantee that the 600 milligrams of this supplement that you consume is going to translate into 600 grams of that nutrient into your body. There is absolutely no guarantee. There is a big process called digestion and transformation that happens inside. Only if that could happen, what you consume will translate into what goes or what the body receives. The current era is that we have a big gap in this process of transformation where what is supplied is not effectively transformed into what we need. For example, if we supply A, if we require B, the expectation is that A gets transformed to B, but A is not getting transformed to B because this process of transformation is not happening appropriately. A get converted into C. So what is the problem? I have a deficiency in B. You have protein deficiency, B12 deficiency, D3 deficiency, iron deficiency, ferritin deficiency, and a list of deficiencies, and you consume all these pills. And what is the C? I don't want any of this. Uric acid levels high, triglycerides high, increased cholesterol levels or increased blood sugar levels, so many increases. So whatever I need, I am deficient of. Whatever I don't want, I am abundant with. So I take supplements for my deficiencies. I take a lot of pills to reduce whatever I don't want. To reduce uric acid, I am taking allopurinol. To reduce cholesterol, I am taking atorvastatin and many other things. So what you supply doesn't decide what you supply to the system doesn't decide or doesn't approve that you are going to get those substances in your system. That's why I was telling, even this moringa is a scam. Moringa has become $1 million industry now.
So is this just trust your intuition with what you feel in your body is what you need and go for that, whatever it is?
Not just intuition, actually speaking. Requirement, I would call it as a requirement. Intuition is a big word. If we are connected with our body, we will understand what is the requirement. Understanding a requirement need not be intuitive, actually speaking. But we need to be connected. We have lost that connection. That's the biggest problem. Even with the process of eating. Let's not go anywhere else. Let's talk about Bhagavad Gita. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Many of you know this shloka. Many of you chant this shloka. Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita Prana Apana Samayukta Pachamyannam Chaturvidam. I think many of you chant this shloka. If you try to break down the shloka and try to understand this, what is this shloka all about? This is about having a mindful process of eating. The food that I eat is Brahman. The way in which it is getting digested is Brahman. The whole digestive process is like a havan. You remember the havan that happened? This digestive process is an everyday auspicious havan that happened yesterday. So how respectfully we should continue this process? We are not continuing this process in a respectful way. It happens as a easy, it happens as a leisure activity. So there are gaps even there. So we have to fix it with something called holism. That holism is the biggest gap. So it's not about food. As I told you, why, when, how much, these are all to be answered. So it's not a tricky situation. You need not have a checklist. I'm having this food. I'm going to counter C and having this rice and khichdi. Does it satisfy? How, when, why? You cannot make a checklist out of it and satisfy every meal time. That organically happens when you have a baseline. We don't have this baseline is the biggest problem. How do we get this baseline? Our ancestors who don't even know what this Ayurveda is, they don't know what spelling of Ayurveda is, but they had a wonderful baseline understanding on which they could build upon, because the connection with nature was good enough. We neither have that nor have this, and we've lost our ancestral traditions also. So we are nowhere. We are in the middle of nowhere. So we need some baseline to be developed, and that is the intention of this 3 days. We are going to go deeper into various aspects, but not info. As you would have, maybe you would have sensed that it's not about sharing information. We are slowly developing the wisdom around these topics. Okay, shall we conclude this session with a small prayer? Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.